Hello everyone, glad to be back. Today is 15th of August, now it's 7:30 in the morning Moscow time. I'm Levan Gudadze and this is my first update for the day in which I will share all the main news that are making headlines in Russian media outlets and Russian language pages for this moment. Second update will be a little bit late in the afternoon, and today also I will make update for Patreon. As many of you know, I do on regular basis some extra content for Patreon, and I will make even more content for Patreon only when we will go back in Moscow region, which will happen fairly soon. And well, I do this in attempt to generate additional interest among members of our community towards my Patreon, and I will be immensely grateful if you will consider to join our tiny but very friendly Patreon community. You can see link under this video in the description box or in the pinned comment. That's been said, let's talk about news now, and I will start first of all with the Ukrainian special military operation. Quick summary of the situation on the front lines. So let's go from southern sectors up to northern ones. So Kherson region, it's no significant changes in previous 12 to 24 hours. Still artillery duels mainly between the sides, local scale recon operations, and constant struggle or fight between the sides for control over these small islands in the Dnieper and the delta of this river. Yesterday afternoon we did receive quite a few reports about Russian attempt to neutralize Ukrainian small bridgehead not far away from on the left bank, not far away from Kazachi Lager settlement. According to reports, Russian side did manage to bring towards frontline long-range artillery, and first Russian artillery did take out Ukrainian artillery that was supporting this bridgehead, and then Russian forces began their operation to neutralize this bridgehead. We don't have for this moment exact data how successful that operation was, but I believe Ukrainian units next to Kazachi Lager will be forced to return to the right bank of the river, or they will be dispersed, and some soldiers of that Ukrainian unit will probably try to hide somewhere on the left bank. But as a bridgehead, there is no more one. But Ukrainian side still has a small bridgehead right next to Antonovsky Bridge, and the Russian forces on regular basis are conducting artillery and drone strikes in the direction of that bridgehead. And well, we can say that despite all the attempts from Ukrainian side to prepare ground for mass crossing of the Dnieper River, they are not really successful at this point. Situation may change sometime in the future, but right now Russian side is quite effective in Kherson region to neutralize all the attempts from Ukrainian forces to somehow improve their positions. When it comes to Zaporozhye and South Donetsk sectors of the front line, it's still operational pause or deadlock, because nothing is happening in the scale that will influence overall situation on these sectors of the front. But of course we have two major hotspots in these sectors. One is Rabotina area, and according to latest reports, Russian forces did repeal yet another waves of Ukrainian local scale offensives in this direction. According to Ruble, Russian military expert and biggest military channel on Telegram with more than 1 million subscribers. So according to Ruble, Ukrainian side did change its tactic, or beginning to change its tactics, and now they are trying to conduct local scale offensives in direction of Rabotina, not just from eastern flank but also from the western flank, and they want to take this settlement in kind of pincer movement, or at least encircle partially. Let's see how will Russian side answer to this kind of change in tactics of Ukrainian forces. But as I mentioned, Rabotina overall situation is operational pause, and Rabotina is under full Russian control, and Next hotspot, of course, it's this area of settlements of Staromayorskaya and Urozhaina. Well, as a result of fierce fighting during the previous days, Ukrainian forces did manage to establish control over the most of the territory of Urozhaina, as I understand, but Russian forces yesterday did begin massive shelling of Ukrainian positions in Urozhaina. I did share this video footage on my Telegram. It was quite something, really. And after that heavy shelling of this area, Ukrainian forces were did withdraw. Did begin to withdraw from forward areas, from the central and southern areas of this settlement. But overall, I will say that this village is in the gray zone now, because no one side has full control over it. Most of the village is under formal control of Ukrainian forces, but southern parts, where kind of industrial zone is located, is under control of Russian forces. But by the way, as I did said quite a few times before, Russian tactic of mobile warfare does allow Russian officers, high-ranking officers in this area, to give order to withdraw Russian units if defense of this area, of this settlement Urozhaina, is too costly, because the settlement can be retaken anytime, but you cannot bring back lives of the killed soldiers. So I would not be surprised if Russian forces will eventually withdraw from this settlement and establish their positions on the next level of defense. But overall, it will not change the situation on this sector of the front. I will remind you that Vremevsky Silent, or Ledge, not even close to the first line of defense, really. And after 3 months of fierce fighting, Ukrainian forces nowhere in Zaporozhye and South Donetsk sectors of the front did reach first line of defense for this moment. And by the way, today when I was preparing this update, I did think that, if you remember, quite similar situation developed in Bakhmut area, or Artyomovsk area, in southern flank of that city, when Ukrainian forces almost take control over Klishevka settlement. And I did a report about it, of course, on my updates, and I did said that maybe Russian forces will withdraw from this settlement. This is Klishevka, by the way, and maybe Russian forces will withdraw from this settlement to save lives if settlement is undefendable or this demands heavy losses to be defended, and this settlement will be retaken sometime in the future when situation is all right. But what happened is that Russian forces did not withdraw. They did allow Ukrainian forces to come in close to Klishevka, even inside the Klishevka, close to Andreevka settlement, and then Russian forces conduct quite significant this local scale offensive operation, and as a result 2 brigades of Ukrainian forces were basically decimated in this area. 2 brigades, by the way, that had to be removed from the front line to get some reinforcement, additional ammunition, and so on. And maybe we will see something similar in the Vremevsky Ledge. It's possible that Russian side has some new tactics also. They are withdrawing from certain areas, inviting basically Ukrainian forces to come in, and once they're quite a significant number of Ukrainian forces are concentrated in that area, then Russian forces are beginning their counteroffensive and basically neutralizing entire this grouping of forces. So I would not be surprised if we will see in area Staromayorskaya, Urozhaina exactly the same that we see in southern flanks of Bakhmut, in Klishevka, Kurdyumovka, Andreevka areas. But yet again, for this moment, I will say in Zaporozhye and South Donetsk sectors of the front, it's operational pause. Nothing is happening in the scale that will influence overall situation on these fronts. Let's continue now. Donetsk direction, always very active, and of course in the central and southern part of Donetsk front, main hotspots are Marinka, Krasnogorovka, and Avdiivka. Always first battles, local scale first battles, artillery duels, wrecking operations. Very active sector of the front, but yet again, for now it's I will call it operational pause, and probably it will stay this way as long as the situation is not yet finally resolved with this Ukrainian so-called counteroffensive. Once the Russian side will make sure that there is no second wave of Ukrainian counteroffensive, or there is no risks on the Zaporozhye and Sovdanetsk sectors that Ukrainian forces will manage to achieve breakthrough, then I'm quite sure we will see significant activization of Russian forces in Donetsk sector. Not just in Avdiivka, Marinka, Krasnogorovka direction, but also in direction of Bakhmut. Because I believe Russian forces are very well capable in this area to conduct quite large-scale offensive operation in direction of Konstantinovka and Chisov Yar, from both sides, from the southern flank and from the northern flank. Let's continue now, and we may probably see it in coming weeks. Let's see. When it comes to Seversk direction, we did have the reports that Russian side did become very active again in direction of Belogorovka, this settlement and surrounding areas, which is constantly disputed between the sides. Yesterday I did share video footage on my Telegram where Russian forces basically were hunting down Ukrainian military equipment in this area, and that may be very well indicator that Russian forces are planning some significant local scale offensive operation to establish control over the Belogorovka, and maybe to become significantly active in Seversk direction as a whole. This settlement, I will say, it's hard to say that it's in operational settlement, but Russian forces are basically controlling all the logistical lines that are supporting Seversk garrison. And just a little improvement of positions and Seversk will end up being in operational encirclement. So fairly soon we will probably see significant activization of Russian side in this area. And when it comes to northern sectors from Liman to Kupiansk, initiative is in Russian hands, as I said many times before. Some local scale skirmishes, artillery duels between the sides, but yet again, at this stage, I believe main news that everybody is waiting from these sectors is when Russian side will begin its large-scale offensive operation, because they are locked and ready. For the last 2 months, they were constantly improving their positions. We had almost on daily basis reports that Russian forces achieved success in this area, and that, and right now they are quite in good position to conduct large-scale offensive. Let's see when Russian Defense Ministry and General Staff will greenlight such offensive operation. And this is it when it comes to quick summary or short summary of the situation. On the battlefield, by the way, I remind you that there are many channels on internet that devote much more time on detailed analysis of situation on the front line. You can see them in my recommendation list under this video in the description box. And of course, first of all, I mean Military Summary channel and Alexander Merkuris, host of Duran. They do great work to inform us about situation on the front line. And now let's and by the way, when it comes to front line, let me share with you this additional news. So during the previous night, Russian side did conduct yet another massive missile and drone strike on logistical and military infrastructure of Zelensky's regime. I did report about it on my Telegram this morning, and according to latest data, during the night, Russian forces strike logistical and military infrastructure of Zelensky's regime in direction of Cherkasy, Rovno, Zaporozhye, Dnipropetrovsk, Kramatorsk, Slavyansk, Vinnytsia, Ivano-Frankovsk, Lvov, Lutsk, and several others. So as you can see, quite a massive strike. And I believe during the day Russian Defense Ministry will share with us additional information about exact targets that Russian missiles and drones were directed to. Now let's talk about some other news. And by the way, first of all, I will share with you information about emergency situation that did happen in Makhachkala, capital of Dagestan Republic, in northern Caucasus region, Dagestan Republic of Russian Federation. And well, very sad information. Gas station did blow up in Makhachkala. I did share video footage of that explosion and consequent fire on my Telegram. Very difficult footage to watch, and unfortunately 27 people died as a result of this explosion on the gas station, and about 70 people, according to latest data, 70 people are injured. Investigation is conducted, and we will of course learn in fairly short amount of time what went wrong. But that's what happened. I guess there was some mistakes in safety of that gas station, as a result of it, which it just exploded. Very tragic development in Dagestan. But any additional news that will be reported by Russian media, of course, I will share on Telegram and on the next updates. Let's continue. And the RIA Novosti is reporting that Russian armed forces did destroy up to 20 positions of Ukrainian forces in direction of Urozhaine. As I said just a minute ago, Urozhaine did become under heavy fire yesterday afternoon, and I would not be surprised if we learn exactly the similar situation here as it was in Klishchevka. Maybe Russian side just withdraw to invite Ukrainian forces to this fire pocket, and then this heavy fire was opened from everything that Russian side has. And according to RIA Novosti and Russian military, by the way, this news is based on information from Russian military, 20 locations of Ukrainian armed forces in area of Urozhaine was targeted and destroyed. RIA Novosti is also reporting that Russian armed forces destroyed. Russian side did conducted strikes in Odessa direction, as you know, day before yesterday in the night time, and I also report about it. And well, according to Russian Defense Ministry, one of the major targets of that strike was warehouses where Ukrainian forces were hiding their naval drones. I did predict that maybe that strike was a kind of retaliation for recent drone strikes in direction of Crimea Bridge or even in direction of Moscow, and seems like that's exactly the case. Russian forces destroy warehouses in Odessa region where Ukrainian drones have been stored, or maybe even built. Let's continue. TASS news agency is reporting that head of U.S. State Department Antony Blinken made an announcement that Ukraine will receive yet another military aid, this time for $200 million. Well, after billions and billions that was sent to Zelensky, 200 million seems not that big of an amount of money, even though it's a huge deal. Just imagine how many good can be done for any U.S. city or settlement with 200 million that has some issues with infrastructure or anything else. But Still new aid package, military aid package for Zelensky and his associates, this time for $200 million. And according to this information, Ukrainian side will receive TOW and Javelin anti-tank missiles, some shells for 155 and 105 millimeter artillery, some anti-mine equipment, missiles for Patriot and HIMARS systems. Well, of course, this military package not gonna change anything or influence significantly anything on the front line, especially outcome of this conflict. We all know, I'm quite sure that eventually Russia will emerge victorious from this conflict. But this approach of Biden's administration once again highlights how dangerous these people, Biden and his associates, really are, not just for USA itself, but also for entire world. They are, you know. Let's continue. And TASS news agencies reporting based on TASS news agencies reporting that according to U.S. expert who is associated with the State Department and Pentagon, Edward Lutwak. Well, according to him, little by little, but Washington is beginning to prepare ground for future negotiations, and that's why, according to him, Washington is refusing to send to Zelensky and his associates certain types of weapons. He did not mention these weapons, but I guess we are talking about long-range weapons for ATACMS, missiles basically, that can launch from HIMARS, maybe some other long-range weapons, drones included, but very same time, Washington is continuing to deliver weapons to Zelensky that allows Kyiv regime to prolong this conflict. And the longer this conflict continues, unfortunately, more casualties and more destruction is done. So, well, maybe at one hand, yes, this expert is correct. Washington is preparing ground for future negotiations. And I believe these negotiations will be about what territories of Ukraine will be controlled on the Russian side and what territories by NATO member states. We are talking about western regions of Ukraine in this case, but still, unfortunately, Washington continues to play this extremely devastating for Ukraine, first of all, role by pouring in money and weapons in this conflict. Let's continue now, and by the way, this is also interesting. Some from Western media lately we are receiving different messages that time to time are contradicting each other. And for example, RIA Novosti is reporting about article in Wall Street Journal according to which Western states now are beginning to prepare Zelensky and his associates, Ukrainian armed forces, for counteroffensive in 2024. Well, there are no more talks about this spring, summer winter offensive of Ukrainian forces. Now they are beginning to push this narrative of Ukrainian counteroffensive 2024, which is crazy, by the way. I don't think many people in the West gonna buy this crap propaganda, but anyway, unfortunately, we all see that majority in the West, majority of Western societies are quite passive. They don't really support this constant flow of money and weapons from NATO member states to Zelensky and his associates, but basically they aren't really doing anything to stop this madness and to somehow play its good role to end this conflict, which is sad, really. But it is what it is. Let me continue. And by the way, Polish authorities did arrest 2 Russian citizens, and they blame these citizens that they are Russian spies. And the most crazy point in this news is that, according to Polish authorities, these alleged Russian spies were conducting some propaganda work in Poland. And when I read this information, I was thinking to myself, I mean, since when officers of secret services, no matter it's Russian secret services, US secret services, British or whatever, since then these officers become or being used as some banal propaganda tools. I mean, to train officers for secret services, it takes years and it takes millions and millions of dollars. Do Polish these authorities, Polish elites, understand what they are talking about even? And by the way, they already did arrested about 15 Russian citizens exactly with this charge that they are Russian spies. I'm telling you guys, Polish elites, they truly are crazy. They are sick. Levels of Russophobia is so high in Polish elites that they are conducting themselves like truly sick individuals. And this is exactly the example of that. They are arresting Russian citizens that maybe said something, maybe did try to defend Russia and Russian actions. And those idiots did arrest these people and now are charging them that they are Russian spies. I mean, truly sick individuals, man. Can you imagine that? To train an officer of secret service, just any secret service, by the way, let's say MI6 in UK, it will take years to train this person and the millions and millions of pounds of taxpayers. And then imagine if London will send these highly trained and very expensive specialists to conduct some banal propaganda somewhere. I mean, what the hell, man? This is, I mean, too crazy. But that's the level of Polish elites, by the way, and Polish authorities. Unfortunately, that's their level. They truly are sick with Russophobia, and then they mentally are not fit, really. Let's continue. And by the way, TASS news agency is reporting that against Trump, that yet another charges have been brought. At this point, everyone in this world understands, I guess, that it's a political prosecution that we see against Trump. Neolibs and neocons, they do everything to somehow remove Trump from presidential race, because they know he has most chances to become next president of US, and because he is not exactly the part of this so-called establishment, well, they don't want him to become president again. Like very same approach they have towards some other candidates that are not exactly the part of establishment. But Trump is, because Trump has significant support, he's, I believe, most popular politician in US. I mean, they are concentrated on Trump. And almost on a weekly basis, they are bringing up some new charges against him, which is, I mean, it's shame for US. Biden administration is destroying reputation of US by this kind of actions. But they don't care. I mean, I'm quite sure they don't care about US citizens. They don't care about reputation of US. They only care about themselves, I guess, and their crazy ideology, whatever that ideology is. Let's continue. And by the way, quite interesting news. RT is reporting that UK warns of terror risks in one of the EU states, in Sweden, by the way. And I was surprised to see this information, because it's usually whenever foreign ministry is coming up with such warnings, they are doing it against unfriendly states, usually. But Sweden is I mean, part of this anti-Russian coalition in every sense. But, well, according to this news, risks of terror attacks in Sweden have been risen, especially because of current burning incidents that took place in Sweden recently. Well, when those criminal acts did take place, I did say that it will upset millions and billions of people, and not just Muslims, by the way, Christians also, atheists also, because it's just inappropriate to disrespect holy books or beliefs of other people. You cannot do this because it's just not right, by the way. It's not about freedom of speech or freedom of freedom in general. It's about respect, which we are humans after all, and we should be respectful. We may disagree with each other on everything, but we can still respect each other because we are humans. And those actions in Sweden, those actions were very disrespectful, not just towards Muslims, but towards humans. And I'm not at all surprised that some people may take it very personal and conduct themselves not really lawfully, which will never justify their actions. Never. You should never take any step that is unlawful. But yet again, with that kind of actions, Sweden basically did green light possible destabilization and possible strikes on Sweden, which will of course never be justified. I'm never gonna say that any terrorist attack or any unlawful action is justified. No, of course, but Sweden did provoke this, isn't it? Unfortunately. Let me continue. And how long is this video? 32 minutes, so I have to end this video in minutes time. So this is few news about economy. So Russia's biggest private bank did report about huge profits in the first 6 months of this year. We are talking about Alpha Bank, and according to this report on RT, Alpha Bank did made profits about 500 million since in January-June period. Well, 500 million, quite a number really, especially if we take into account that those banks, Russian banks, have to operate here under heavy pressure from the Western financial institutions and the Western states and elites, so-called elites. Anyway, let me continue. TASS news agency is reporting that Russian central bank will have an emergency meeting about interest rates. And well, we may see significant rise of interest rates in Russia. And one of the reasons is that yesterday, Russian ruble did slide down yet again quite significantly, and at some point did reach 102 rubles for $1. Then after information was reported that central bank will conduct emergency meeting about interest rates, ruble did regain some positions, and right now I'll give you latest course on Russian ruble, which is by the way 101.04 rubles for $1. So well, I guess my prediction will become correct once again, and before end of this year, exchange rate between ruble and dollar will be about 110, 120 rubles for $1. And I'm not making this prediction on nothing. I'm analyzing information that we have from open sources. And after all, by the way, according to data that we are receiving, Russian energy exports, let's say when it comes to gas, is not as great as it was before 2022. It was cut about 35-40%, and well, if we take in account all these sanctions and pressure and price caps and so on Russian energy, well, I guess it's quite expectable that this balance in trade is huge. Demand on foreign currencies are rising. Same time, Russia is conducting special military operation, which is very costly. And militaries, by the way, and mobilized people, they are receiving quite good salaries on monthly basis. And when soldiers wounded or killed, compensations have been also paid. And we are talking about hundreds and hundreds of billions of rubles. And all this mass is entering market, which is on its own can influence strength of the national currency. And all these different factors, if you are combining this, well, you can you will have a good enough reasoning to predict that Russian ruble will continue its slide for quite a while. And if we take in account exchange rate before beginning of special military operation, and then we may probably say that Russian ruble will lose about 100% of its strength. So that's why I'm saying before end of this year we may see exchange rate 110, 120 rubles for a dollar, and then ruble will probably stabilize. And by the way, this is it. I hope I didn't explain myself or what I wanted to say. So this is it for now. I hope you will find this update interesting, and if so, please click that like button and leave some commentary about any topic you like. More likes and comments definitely make change and influence YouTube's algorithm and allow us to reach wider audience. And for very same reason, if you can, please share links to my videos or my channel with your friends on Twitter, Facebook, Telegram, or any other platform that you are active on. And if you think this channel and project is interesting, deserves to exist in this field of news and political commentary, please consider to support with small donations through PayPal, Buy Me a Coffee, or by subscribing to my Patreon page. You will see links on this video in description box or in the pinned comment. This is it for now. Have a great day and see you in next update. Take care.